All right, this is already starting to get a little confusing for me. So I imagine maybe for the listeners. Let's just go over again what we've established so far. This wasn't, so it sounds like it wasn't in the beginning of the United States Constitution Declaration. It sounds like that this stuff wasn't in place then. It was in 1913 when all this came into existence. Is that right?
Yeah, when it started to come about, yeah.
Because they needed to essentially raise money.
Well, they didn't have any money. So let's back up with that. And maybe this will help clarify too. So in Jewish law, okay, which banking is all Jewish law, okay, people are forgiven for their debts after 7 years, okay, in bankruptcy, right? You're bankrupt, you're forgiven after 7 years. In Jewish law, countries are 70 years, okay? So times that by 10 for countries. So do the math. Okay, we had this war that we called the War of Independence, right? The Revolutionary War, all smoke and mirrors, by the way. We couldn't fight that war with muskets and pitchforks and, you know, a couple of farmers. We needed help because England was the largest military machine on earth, most sophisticated. So you're not going to beat it with a couple ragtag, you know, rednecks, right? So we hired France. Just read history. This is very simple stuff to track. So we hired France. Well, how did we hire France? We didn't have any money. Now we're in debt, right? So you're in debt. So you declare your independence. You have the war. You don't have any money. You go into the Articles of Confederation. You all bind together and say, we are separate nation states and we're binding together in a confederacy. Okay. The Northwest Ordinance comes in. That's another part of this, but that's one of the bylaws. We'll table that. That's where the United States first started to take shape, was the Northwest Ordinance, which a lot of people don't even think about. Okay. Then you get into, well, we have no money, so we need to function somehow. This is bankruptcy. So what happens in a bankruptcy? Everything gets held in trust, right? Until the bankruptcy can be settled and the debts can be paid and all that stuff, you know, equitably. So here we are writing a bankruptcy trust called the Constitution. That's all it is. This is bankruptcy trust, man. It's a trust. No matter which way you shake it down, it has all the elements of a trust, which aren't many. You don't need many to form a trust. So now we're at 1789, 1790 is when the first congressional sessions begin, right? President sworn in 1790, whatever. Now we're in bankruptcy. We're functioning, we're going along. The bank tries to come in the early 1800s and create another central banking system. People are still in tune to central banking scam, and they're like, nope, we're not having it, get out. You know, Andrew Jackson said, I killed the bank, you know, because he's like, we're not having a central bank system, get out of our country, you vipers, you know, the den of vipers. Just read about Andrew Jackson. So 70 years later is what? When are we going to be forgiven for this bankruptcy? In 70 years, 1860. All of a sudden, oh, God, got another war, Civil War. You guys just happen to be fighting each other over slavery, which wasn't how the war started. It had nothing to do with slavery. It had to do with states' rights. And the state said, no, the federal government is not going to come in and tell us to give more money to the southern or to the northern states because they're not making as much money as we are. We're not going to do that. It had nothing to do with slavery at all. Nothing. The Civil War had nothing to do with slavery. Slavery, just as a side note, was used just like Lincoln said in the Emancipation Proclamation. Just read it. As a fit and necessary war measure. That's why the slaves were freed, as a fit and necessary war measure, meaning if we free the slaves in the South, they're going to rise up on the plantations where the husbands are fighting the war. So the mother and children are left on the plantations, and these slaves are going to rise up and kill the mothers and children. What are the military going to do? They're going to leave the battlefield, go, hell with you, man. We got to get home. They're going to kill our family because the slaves are free now. And that's exactly what happened. That's how they started to turn, because they were losing up until the Emancipation Proclamation. The North was losing. Okay. After that, they started winning. Put that aside. Back to the 70 years. Bankruptcy reorganization. You guys are now bankrupt. You got to pay for this war. You got to free the slaves. You got to do all this stuff other than pay attention to the bankruptcy. All right. Fine. We get through that. They take away more freedoms, right? Everybody's, yeah, take away our freedom. Just end this hellacious war that just popped up out of nowhere. 70 years after that. What date is it when we're about to be forgiven? Just happens to be 1930. Oh, stock market crash, guys, you got no money. What are you going to do? Sorry, can't be forgiven of the debt. We got to put you in more debt. What are you going to give us for collateral? Right? We're going to give you the people, and we're going to give you the labor and the land. 70 years after 1930.
So the bank, what bank here is holding so if we're bankrupt against a bank, is there a specific bank that we're like repeatedly bankrupt to?
The same bank that's in every country, the Federal Reserve. Now, they may have different names in other countries, but the owners of the trust are the same, right? You got your Rothschilds, your Morgans and stuff like that, you know, the elite wealthy, the Vatican, they all have a hand in the pot. And these central banking systems, you'll never know who the true owners are because the owners are the beneficiaries. The owners, it's a trust. And you don't have a right to see the trust. This is a private organization. It may have a public side that has to follow certain public policies and all, but its profits and everything are private. You don't have a right to see that. That's why after the 14th Amendment or after the Civil War, what did they put in the 14th Amendment? The public debt shall not be questioned ever. Well, folks, you can question the public debt all you want. They don't have to verify anything for you. And you agreed to it by being a US citizen under the 14th Amendment. So real quick, I want to finish up the 70 years because 70 years from 1930, everybody, is what? 2000. Give it 1 year. 9/11. Oh, you can't be out of bankrupt. They were reorganizing the bankrupts. They were getting ready to announce that we are out of debt. Okay. And all of that information was held in Building 7, which is why Building 7 just fell. Right? It's like, for those that believe 9/11 is a conspiracy theory, come on, guys. Not Building 7 is just sitting there, right? Way smaller than these other buildings. Nothing hit it, but yet it just goes boop. And it doesn't do this, by the way. It does this. That's a controlled demolition. So 70 years after 1930, yes, 9/11 happened, put us in another war.
So we were out of debt at that point. We had like paid off our
would
debts?
have been.
Okay.
We would have been, but we weren't, or we aren't, because all of a sudden now we're in another debt situation with the war on terror, right? You got to pay for that. Where we're at right now is the creditors, which, by the way, yes, does include China. Like I was saying, there are owners of these central banks. There are creditors, China being one of them, wants their money back. They want their collateral. We don't have the money, so they want their collateral. So what are they trying to collect on? The people and the land. That's what they're trying to collect on. That's where this gets really serious. It's all about finance. It has nothing to do with a virus other than keeping you occupied.
Okay, so how do you collect people? Like what?
Well, you don't. You do with them what you want because they're your property at this point, or their property is, because it's not even. Let's back that up. We see it as people, right? They see it as you're the insurance policy for the person that they have a right to collect, right? The person is the trust. It's
the trust, right?
The straw man, that kind of thing, right? So you're attached to that by way of saying, I'm the surety. I will pay the debts of this trust. I will pay the debts of this organization. Oh, well, then you must be the responsible party. And that's why it's extremely powerful when you walk into a courtroom and they say, please state your name. And you go, name's Robert Michael. That's not the name I have here, right? Because I have a last name. Is that your full name, sir? Sure is. Full name I was given. Because I was given that name. My last name was not given to me. That was inherited. That's called a house name. And all of a sudden, the judge is going to start, what's your address? You know, he might start some other questions, or he might go, yeah, okay, whatever, sovereign citizen, okay, whatever. Then you have to know how to keep going with it, right? Because it's not enough to just say you're not the person. But anyway, that's why, because they can only bring the trust in there. And they're just looking for surety for are you going to step up as surety for this trust here today? John Henry Doe? Well, I'm not John Henry Doe, so no, I'm not. I'm not going to step up as surety, but I'd be glad to accept your offer based on the condition of blah, 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 blah. As long as you meet these conditions, as long as the state over here meets these conditions, I will gladly accept that offer. Now you're just negotiating. Now every single court case becomes a matter of business. It has nothing to do with crime charge. We've got 80 to 90% of the prisoners in this country are there for victimless crimes. And it's all about money, all about money. Prisons are privately owned and they must be kept full. That's part of the contract.
Yeah, I learned about the whole prison thing is being private, and that you can lobby to have laws changed to get more people in prison. It's like lobbying to have your hotel full.
Yep, exactly, man. Good point. You're exactly right. From my research, that's right. Anyway.